Daniel sat in his corner office on the 45th floor, staring at the city lights below. At 35 years old, he had everything most people dreamed of. A tech company worth millions, a penthouse apartment, cars that cost more than most houses. But right now, none of that mattered. His phone buzzed. Another message from his assistant reminding him about tomorrow's meeting. He ignored it. Instead, he picked up the small photo lying on his desk. His mother, taken just last week at the hospital. She looked so different now, so tired, so fragile. The doctors had been clear. 6 months, maybe less. Stage 4 cancer doesn't leave much room for hope. His mother knew it too. But she wasn't asking for a miracle cure or an expensive treatment. She was asking for something much simpler and somehow much harder. She wanted to see him married. Daniel had spent the last 3 months trying to change her mind. He'd explained that he was too busy building his company, that marriage wasn't practical right now, that he'd find someone eventually. But his mother just smiled that knowing smile of hers and said she didn't have eventually. She had now. So here he was, sitting with a folder full of documents about a woman he'd never met. An arranged marriage just like his grandparents had done back in the old country. The idea felt ancient and absurd in the modern world. But it was also the only thing that would give his mother peace in her final days. The matchmaker, Mrs. Chen, was an old family friend. She'd promised to find someone suitable, someone who understood the situation and wouldn't have unrealistic expectations. The arrangement was simple enough. Daniel would provide financial security. The bride would provide his mother with the comfort of seeing her son settled. After his mother passed, they could quietly divorce or continue the arrangement as they saw fit. Everything would be spelled out in a prenuptial agreement. He opened the folder again and looked at the photos. The woman's name was Sophia, 28 years old, an elementary school teacher. The pictures showed someone quite ordinary. Her hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail. Thick glasses dominated her face. She wore an oversized sweater that hid her figure. In one photo, she was caught mid-laugh, her mouth wide open in an unflattering angle. His business partner, Kevin, had seen the photos earlier that day. "Dude, are you serious?" Kevin had laughed. "I mean, I know it's an arrangement, but still. You couldn't find someone a little easier on the eyes?" Daniel had shrugged. "It's not about that. It's just to make my mother happy." But Kevin's words had stung a little, not because Daniel cared that much about appearances, but because it confirmed what he'd suspected. This Sophia woman was probably desperate. Maybe she had debt. Maybe she had family problems. Whatever the reason, she was willing to marry a complete stranger for money. That made sense to him. Everything was a transaction in the end. The background check had come back clean. No criminal record. No suspicious activity. She'd been teaching at the same elementary school for 5 years. She lived in a small apartment across town. She volunteered at a community center on weekends. By all accounts, she was exactly what Mrs. Chen had promised. Respectable, quiet, undemanding. Daniel's mother had wanted to meet Sophia before the wedding, but her health had taken a sudden turn last week. The doctor said she might not have months after all. So the timeline had moved up. The wedding was scheduled for this Saturday. 3 days away. He hadn't even spoken to his future wife yet. Just a few text messages coordinated through Mrs. Chen. Sophia had agreed to all the terms without negotiation. She'd signed the preliminary papers without asking for a single change. That had actually impressed Daniel. At least she wasn't going to be difficult about things. His phone rang. It was his mother's nurse. "Mr. Daniel, your mother is asking for you again. Tell her I'll be there in 30 minutes. He grabbed his coat and headed out. The hospital had become his second home these past months. He knew every nurse by name, could navigate the hallways with his eyes closed, had memorized which vending machine had the least terrible coffee. His mother was awake when he arrived, propped up on pillows, an oxygen tube running under her nose. She smiled when she saw him. That smile still had power even now. "Did you meet her yet?" she asked. Her voice was weaker than it had been even yesterday. "The wedding is Saturday, Mom. I'll meet her then." "That's not right. You should talk to her first, get to know her. It's not that kind of marriage. You know that." His mother reached for his hand. Her grip was so light now, like holding paper. "Promise me you'll give her a chance. A real chance. Don't just treat this like another business deal." Daniel wanted to argue but couldn't. Not with her looking at him like that. I promise. Good boy. She closed her eyes, tired from even that small conversation. Mrs. Chen says Sophia is special, different. I think you might be surprised. Daniel doubted that, but didn't say so. He sat with his mother until she fell asleep, then drove home through the empty streets. Saturday arrived faster than he expected. The wedding was being held at a small venue his mother's church had recommended. Nothing fancy, just immediate family and a few close friends. His mother was too weak to attend, which hurt more than Daniel wanted to admit. He arrived early, wearing a suit that cost more than most people's monthly rent. The prenuptial agreement was tucked inside his jacket pocket.
He planned to have Sophia sign it right after the ceremony.
Just to make everything official and clear, Kevin showed up with 2 other friends from college. They'd come for moral support, though their idea of support involved a lot of jokes about ball and chain and kissing freedom goodbye. Last chance to run, Kevin whispered as guests started arriving. Daniel ignored him. He stood at the front of the small chapel, hands in his pockets, trying to look anywhere but at the door. His heart was beating faster than it should. This was ridiculous. It was just a formality, a way to give his mother peace. Nothing more. The music started. That traditional wedding march that everyone recognized. Daniel turned toward the door, preparing himself to see the plain, ordinary woman from the photos. The door opened, and Daniel's entire world tilted sideways. The woman walking down the aisle was not the person from the pictures. She couldn't be. This woman was stunning. Not in a flashy or obvious way, but in a way that made everything else in the room fade out. Dark hair fell in soft waves past her shoulders. Her dress was simple but elegant, fitting her perfectly. She walked with quiet confidence, her chin up, meeting his eyes directly. Behind him, Kevin whispered, "What the hell?" Daniel couldn't speak. Couldn't think. This had to be a mistake. Maybe the real bride was sick and they'd sent a stand-in. Maybe he'd gotten the wrong venue, but no. As she reached him, he saw the small details that matched the photos. The same delicate hands, the same slight dimple on her left cheek. This was Sophia. But somehow, impossibly, completely different. She stopped in front of him, a small smile playing at the corners of her mouth. It's like she knew exactly what he was thinking and found it amusing. "Hello, Daniel," she said quietly. Surprised? He was too shocked to even answer. The ceremony was a blur. Daniel stood there saying words he couldn't remember 5 seconds later. His mind was spinning. Every time he glanced at Sophia, he expected her to transform back into the woman from the photos. But she didn't. She was real. And she was standing right next to him, saying her vows in a calm, clear voice. When the officiant said he could kiss the bride, Daniel hesitated. Sophia simply offered her cheek, keeping things appropriate and distant. Smart. Professional even. But that only confused him more. The small reception afterward was torture. His friends kept giving him looks that said, "You lucky bastard," while he tried to figure out what kind of game was being played. His aunt kept gushing about how beautiful the bride was. Kevin pulled him aside twice, asking how he'd pulled this off. "I didn't," Daniel muttered. "I have no idea what's happening." Sophia played her part perfectly. She was polite to everyone, smiled at the right times, thanked people for coming. But Daniel noticed she kept some distance. She didn't cling to his arm or play up the happy bride routine. She was cordial, appropriate, and somehow completely unreadable. After an hour of this torture, Daniel couldn't take it anymore. He caught Sophia's eye and nodded toward a small room off the main hall. She understood immediately and excused herself from a conversation with his aunt. The room was meant for storage, filled with extra chairs and decorations. Not exactly romantic, but Daniel didn't care about romance right now. He needed answers. "Okay," he said the moment the door closed. "Who are you, really?" Sophia leaned against a stack of chairs, perfectly calm. "I'm Sophia Rodriguez. We just got married. Remember? Don't play games with me. The photos I saw, that wasn't you. Or it was you but completely different. What's going on?" She studied him for a moment, like she was deciding how much to tell him. "The photos were me. Just not my best angles. Not your best angles. That's like saying the ocean is slightly damp. You looked completely different. I looked exactly how I wanted to look." Daniel felt his jaw tighten. "So this was what? Some kind of trick?" "Not a trick. A test." "A test?" Sophia pushed off from the chairs and took a step closer. "When Mrs. Chen told me about this arrangement, I had a choice. I could send you flattering photos and you'd agree to marry me because I'm pretty. I could send you the worst possible photos and see if you'd still go through with it. I chose the second option. Why would you do that? Because I wanted to know what kind of man I was marrying. If you only agreed because of how I looked, that told me something. If you agreed despite how I looked, that told me something else. Daniel ran his hand through his hair, trying to process this. So you intentionally made yourself look bad to test my character? Yes, that's insane. Maybe, but it worked, didn't it? You agreed to marry someone you thought was plain and ordinary. That means you're either desperate, which I knew you weren't, or you're doing this for your mother. That matters to me. You could have just asked about my intentions. People lie. Actions don't. Sophia's voice was matter-of-fact, like she was explaining basic math. You agreed to marry someone you found unattractive to make your dying mother happy. That shows character. It shows you're capable of putting someone else's needs above your own comfort. Daniel didn't know whether to be angry or impressed. And what if I had said no? What if I'd rejected you based on those photos? Then I would have known you weren't someone I could respect. And I would have looked for another solution to my problems. Your problems, right? Daniel pulled out the prenuptial agreement from his jacket. Let's talk about that. What exactly are you getting out of this arrangement? Because you clearly put a lot of thought into this. Sophia took the papers but didn't look at them. Mrs. Chen told me about your mother, about how important this is to you. She also told me about the financial support that comes with the arrangement. I won't pretend I don't need that help. So it is about money. Partially. My younger brother, he was in a car accident 3 years ago. He's paralyzed from the waist down. The medical bills are crushing me. I've taken every extra shift, every tutoring job I can find. But it's not enough. When Mrs. Chen approached me about this, I saw it as a way to help my brother without drowning in debt. There was no shame in her voice. No apology. Just facts stated plainly. Daniel found that refreshing in a strange way. At least she was honest about it, but, Sophia continued, I didn't want to marry someone terrible just for money, so I needed to know if you were a decent person. The photos were my insurance policy. Daniel sat down on one of the folded chairs, his mind still racing. This is the strangest conversation I've ever had with someone I just married. Probably the strangest marriage, too. Yeah. He looked at the prenuptial agreement still in her hands. You should read that before you sign it. Sophia finally glanced at the papers, flipping through them quickly. Too quickly to actually read everything. Then she pulled a pen from her small clutch bag and signed on the last page. Wait, don't you want to have a lawyer look at it? Why? It protects your assets in case we divorce. Makes sense. I'm not here to take your money in a settlement. I just need help with my brother's medical bills and a place to stay while we keep up this arrangement. That's what we agreed to. She handed the signed papers back to him. Daniel stared at the signature, feeling off balance again. Everyone else in his life would have negotiated, would have pushed for more. But Sophia just signed it like she was returning a library book. You're not what I expected, he said quietly. Neither are you. I thought you'd be angry about the photos. Cold, maybe. Instead, you just seem confused. I am confused. Very confused, Sophia smiled, and it was a real smile this time. Not the polite one she'd been wearing for the guests. Good, that makes two of us. I wasn't expecting you to be so what? Human, I guess. Rich people in your position are usually more arrogant. Daniel laughed despite himself. Give me time. I might still surprise you. I hope you do. They stood there in the storage room. Two strangers who'd just legally bound their lives together, trying to figure out what happened next, so, Daniel finally said, I guess we should talk about the practical stuff. You'll move into my place. I have plenty of room. We can stay out of each other's way, mostly. That works for me. I have teaching during the day anyway. And I'd like to visit your mother at the hospital if that's okay. Mrs. Chen mentioned she wanted to meet me. You'd do that? Of course. She's the reason we're doing this, isn't she? I'd like to meet the woman who raised someone willing to go through all this trouble for her. Something in Daniel's chest tightened. Not uncomfortable, just unexpected. She'd like that. She's always asking about you. Then I'll go tomorrow. What does she like? Books? Flowers? She likes stories. Just talking, really. Her energy isn't great, but she loves company. I can do that. A knock on the door interrupted them. Kevin's voice came through. Hey, are you two okay in there? People are starting to leave. We're fine, Daniel called back. We'll be out in a minute. Sophia smoothed down her dress and checked her hair in the reflection of a picture frame leaning against the wall. Ready to go back to pretending we're a normal couple? Is any part of this normal? Not even a little bit. But that's what makes it interesting. They walked back to the reception together, not touching but somehow more connected than when they'd left. Daniel's mind was still processing everything. This woman had outsmarted him, had tested him without him knowing, had agreed to marry him with clear eyes and practical expectations. And somehow, for the first time since this whole arrangement started, Daniel felt like maybe it wouldn't be completely miserable. Maybe, just maybe, it might even be interesting. As they said goodbye to the last few guests, Sophia played her role perfectly. The gracious bride, the respectful new family member. But Daniel caught her eye once and saw something there. Amusement, maybe, or satisfaction at a plan well executed. His friends clapped him on the back and made their jokes. His aunt cried and said how happy she was for them. And through it all, Daniel kept thinking about one thing. He'd thought he was the one in control of this arrangement. The one calling the shots because he had the money and the power. But Sophia had just shown him something different. She'd been running her own game from the start. Testing him. Evaluating him. Making sure he was worthy before she committed. The student had become the teacher. And Daniel, who was used to being the smartest person in any room, had just been schooled by an elementary school teacher, with a clever plan and unflattering photos. As they left the venue to drive to his penthouse, Daniel glanced at the woman sitting beside him in the car. His wife, what a strange word for a stranger. "Hey," he said, "those photos, do you still have the originals?" Sophia pulled out her phone and showed him. There she was with the messy hair and oversized sweater. Same person, completely different presentation. "You want to know the funny part?" she said. "That's actually what I look like most days. I'm a teacher. I spend my time with 6-year-olds who don't care about makeup or fancy clothes. Today was the unusual look, not the photos." Daniel laughed. Really laughed for the first time in weeks. "So I married the real you and just met the fancy version?" Something like that. Great. Just great. But he was still smiling. This arrangement was supposed to be simple, straightforward, a business deal with clear terms and expectations. Somehow, in the span of one afternoon, it had become something else entirely, something complicated and unpredictable, and Daniel had no idea what to do about it. The penthouse was silent except for the hum of the city below. Daniel carried Sophia's 2 suitcases into the guest wing, feeling oddly like a hotel bellhop. She'd packed light, just clothes and books mostly. No demands for the master bedroom or complaints about the arrangements. She simply thanked him and started unpacking. "The kitchen is fully stocked," Daniel said from the doorway. "Help yourself to anything. The housekeeper comes on Tuesdays and Fridays. If you need anything else, just let me know." Sophia looked up from folding a sweater. "This is more than enough. Really, I'm used to a studio apartment with a hot plate." "Right. Well, I'll be in the East Wing if you need anything. I usually work late, so I probably won't see you much." "That's fine. I have lesson plans to work on anyway." They stood there awkwardly for a moment. Married but strangers. Roommates with a legal contract. Finally, Daniel nodded and left, closing the door behind him. He went to his office and tried to focus on work. Tried to review the quarterly report sitting on his desk. But his mind kept wandering back to the woman down the hall. The woman who'd outsmarted him with a few bad photos and some clever planning. The next morning, Daniel woke to the smell of coffee. Real coffee, not the expensive pod machine stuff. He followed the scent to the kitchen and found Sophia already dressed, pouring herself a cup from an old-fashioned coffee maker she must have brought with her. "Morning," she said. "I made extra if you want some." "Thanks." He poured himself a cup, surprised by how good it tasted. "You're up early." "Teacher habit. I'm heading to the hospital at 8 to meet your mother before my first class. Is there anything I should know? Things that might upset her or topics to avoid?" Daniel thought about it. "She gets tired easily. Don't feel bad if she falls asleep mid-conversation. And she worries about me working too much, so maybe don't mention that I was up until 2 in the morning." Sophia smiled. "Your secret is safe with me. How will you get there? I can have my driver take you. I'll take the bus. Same way I always get around." "Sophia, you don't have to take the bus anymore. I can arrange a car for you." "I appreciate that, but I'm fine with the bus. Gives me time to think." Daniel wanted to argue but stopped himself. If she wanted to take the bus, that was her choice. though it felt strange knowing his wife was riding public transportation while he had 3 cars sitting in the garage downstairs. After Sophia left, Daniel went through his morning routine. Shower, suit, checking emails while eating breakfast, normal. Except nothing felt normal anymore. There was evidence of another person in his space now. That coffee maker on the counter. A pair of shoes by the door. A sweater draped over the couch. His phone rang. It was the hospital. "Mr. Daniel, your mother wanted me to call you. She met your wife this morning." Daniel's stomach dropped. "Is everything okay?" "Is she upset?" "Upset? No, sir. She's happier than we've seen her in weeks. She wanted you to know that Sophia is wonderful and you better not mess this up." Despite everything, Daniel smiled. "Tell her I'll do my best." That afternoon, Kevin stopped by the office. He dropped into the chair across from Daniel's desk with his usual lack of boundaries. "So," Kevin said, "you going to explain what happened? Because that woman at your wedding was definitely not the same person from those photos you showed me." "It's complicated. Everything with you is complicated. Come on, give me something. The guys are dying to know if you hired a model or if that was actually your arranged bride." Daniel leaned back in his chair. "That was actually Sophia. She just took really bad photos on purpose." "Why would anyone do that?" "To test me. To see if I'd go through with it even if I thought she was unattractive." Kevin stared at him. "That's either really smart or really crazy. Both, probably. So what's it like? Living with her?" "We barely see each other. She stays in her wing, I stay in mine. It's fine." "Fine, right?" Kevin didn't look convinced. "You know what your problem is? You treat everything like a business deal. Even your marriage. It is a business deal. That's literally what this is." "Yeah, but that woman doesn't seem like the business deal type. She seems like the type who bakes cookies and volunteers at animal shelters or something." "She volunteers at a community center, actually." "See? My point exactly. You married someone with a soul and you're treating her like a merger acquisition." Daniel threw a pen at him. "Don't you have actual work to do?" "Probably. But this is more interesting." Kevin stood up to leave. "Just saying, man. You might want to actually get to know your wife. She seems pretty cool for someone who agreed to marry your workaholic ass." After Kevin left, Daniel tried to focus but couldn't. He kept thinking about what his friend had said, about treating Sophia like a business deal. But what else was he supposed to do? They'd both agreed to the terms. Keep things simple and separate. Help each other out and stay out of each other's way. That evening, Daniel came home to find Sophia in the living room, surrounded by construction paper and markers. She was making something with bright colors and glitter. "Art project?" he asked. "Class project. We're learning about space, so each kid is making their own planet. I'm making examples to show them." Daniel picked up one of the finished planets. It was covered in purple glitter with pipe cleaner rings. "This is really good. Thanks. The kids love it when I bring in examples. Makes it feel more real to them." He sat down on the other end of the couch, not quite sure why. He should go to his office. He had emails to answer. But something about the scene was oddly peaceful. The sound of markers on paper. The smell of glue. The focused look on Sophia's face as she worked. "How is my mother?" he asked. Sophia's face lit up. "She's amazing. We talked for almost 2 hours. She told me stories about you as a kid. Did you really try to start a business selling rocks when you were 7? They were special rocks. They were from the driveway. Location doesn't determine value." Sophia laughed, and it was a real laugh. Not polite or forced. She also told me you used to read to her every night when you were young. That you'd make up different voices for all the characters. Daniel felt his chest tighten. "I haven't thought about that in years." She remembers. She said those were her favorite memories. They sat in silence for a moment. Sophia went back to her craft project. Daniel watched the city lights outside the window. It should have been awkward, but somehow it wasn't. "She asked me to read to her," Sophia said quietly. "If that's okay with you?" She said she misses having someone read to her. "Of course it's okay. You don't need my permission. Still, she's your mother. I didn't want to overstep." "You're not overstepping. Actually, thank you for spending time with her. You didn't have to do that. I wanted to. She's lonely in that hospital. And she's interesting. She told me about growing up in her village, about coming to this country with nothing. She's tough." "Yeah, she is." Sophia finished another planet and held it up to examine. "You know what she told me? She said she was worried about you. That you work too hard and forget to live." Daniel sighed. She always says that. Maybe she has a point. You sound like Kevin now. Who's Kevin? My business partner. He's also concerned about my work-life balance, apparently. Smart guy. Daniel found himself smiling despite his annoyance. You've been here one day and you're already ganging up on me with my family and friends. I'm a quick adapter. Sophia started cleaning up her supplies. I'm making dinner in a bit. Nothing fancy, just pasta. You're welcome to join me if you want. Or not, no pressure. Daniel should say no. Should go back to his office and his emails and his normal routine. But instead he heard himself say, "What time?" 7. I'll be there. Sophia nodded and headed to the kitchen with her arms full of art supplies. Daniel sat there for a moment wondering what he was doing. This wasn't part of the arrangement. Casual dinners and conversations on the couch. They were supposed to stay separate, professional, but his mother was happy, and Sophia was here, making planets and offering pasta. And for the first time in months, his apartment didn't feel like an expensive prison. At 7, he found Sophia in the kitchen. She'd made simple spaghetti with marinara sauce and garlic bread. They ate at the kitchen counter because the formal dining room felt too stuffy. This is really good, Daniel said, and meant it. My mother's recipe. She used to make this every Sunday. Said it was cheap enough to feed our whole family and tasty enough that nobody complained. Tell me about your family. Sophia talked while they ate, about growing up with 3 siblings in a small house, about her father who worked construction and her mother who cleaned houses, about how they'd all pitched in to help each other, about the accident that took her parents and left her brother paralyzed. I'm sorry, Daniel said. That must have been incredibly hard. It was, but we survived. My brother is stronger than people think. He's going to college now, actually. Online classes. He wants to be a programmer. That's impressive. He's impressive. I just wish I could do more for him. Daniel thought about the prenuptial agreement, about the financial arrangement they'd made. The agreement includes medical coverage for your brother. I'll make sure he gets the best care available. Sophia looked up, surprised. That's in the agreement? I added it this morning. Had my lawyer include it. He should have physical therapy, better equipment, whatever he needs. For a moment, Sophia just stared at him. Then her eyes got shiny and she looked away quickly. Thank you. You didn't have to do that. Yes, I did. That's part of why you agreed to this. It's only fair. Still, thank you. They finished dinner in comfortable silence. Afterward, Sophia insisted on cleaning up, and Daniel found himself helping despite her protests. They worked side by side, washing dishes and putting things away, like a real couple instead of 2 people with a contract. When everything was clean, they stood in the kitchen, not quite sure how to end the evening. I should get back to work, Daniel said, though he didn't move. And I should finish those lesson plans. Yeah, neither of them moved. Finally, Sophia smiled. This was nice. The dinner, I mean. We should do it again sometime. I'd like that. Okay then. Good night, Daniel. Good night, Sophia. He watched her walk away toward her wing of the apartment. Then he went to his office, but he didn't open his laptop right away. Instead, he sat there thinking about purple glitter planets and marinara sauce and the way Sophia's voice got soft when she talked about her brother. This arrangement was supposed to be simple. A way to make his mother happy and help someone in need. Nothing complicated. Nothing that would change his life, but somehow one day in, things already felt different. And Daniel wasn't sure if that terrified him or intrigued him more. 3 months passed faster than Daniel expected. What started as awkward politeness had shifted into something else. Something comfortable. They fell into a routine without planning it. Morning coffee together, Sophia visiting his mother at the hospital, dinner a few times a week when their schedules aligned. Daniel's mother improved for a while. Not physically, but her spirits lifted. She looked forward to Sophia's visits, and the nurses said she was eating better, sleeping better. Hope could do that sometimes, even when the body was failing. Then one Tuesday morning, the call came at 4 a.m. Daniel knew what it meant before he even answered. You don't get calls at that hour unless something is very wrong. Mr. Daniel, you should come to the hospital. Your mother, she's asking for you. He was out of bed and dressed in minutes. His hands shook as he grabbed his keys. This was it. The moment he'd been dreading for months. A soft knock on his bedroom door. Sophia stood there in sweatpants and an old college shirt, her hair messy from sleep. I heard the phone, she said. Is it your mother? Daniel nodded, not trusting his voice. I'm coming with you. You don't have to. I'm coming. They drove through empty streets in silence. Daniel gripped the steering wheel too tight, his jaw clenched. Sophia sat beside him, not trying to fill the silence with empty words. Just there, present. At the hospital, his mother was awake but fading. The doctor had already warned him. Hours, not days. Daniel sat beside the bed and took her hand. It felt so small now, so fragile. "There's my boy," his mother whispered. Her voice was barely there. "I'm here, Mom. I'm right here." She turned her head slightly and saw Sophia standing in the doorway. "Come here, sweet girl. Don't be shy." Sophia came and stood on the other side of the bed. His mother reached for her hand too. "I'm so glad," his mother said, her words coming slow and difficult. "So glad you found each other." Daniel felt his throat close up. They hadn't found each other. This was an arrangement, a business deal. But looking at his mother's peaceful face, he couldn't say that. Wouldn't say that. "Take care of him," his mother said to Sophia. "He works too hard, forgets to eat, forgets to live." "I will," Sophia promised, tears running down her face. "And Daniel." His mother squeezed his hand with surprising strength. "Let her. Let someone in. Let someone care." "I will, Mom, I promise." His mother smiled and closed her eyes. "Good, that's good." She died an hour later with both of them holding her hands, peaceful. No pain at the end. Just a slow fade into sleep. Daniel sat there for a long time after the nurses came. He couldn't move. Couldn't process what had happened. His mother was gone. The person who'd known him his whole life, who'd believed in him when he was just a kid selling rocks, who'd loved him unconditionally. Gone. Sophia didn't say anything. She just wrapped her arms around him and held on tight. And Daniel, who never cried, who prided himself on control, broke down completely. He sobbed into her shoulder like a child while she held him and whispered that it would be okay, even though they both knew nothing would be okay for a while. The next few days were a blur. Funeral arrangements, phone calls, people coming by to offer condolences. Daniel moved through it all like a robot, going through the motions because that's what you did. Sophia handled most of it, actually, coordinating with the funeral home, organizing the reception, making sure people were fed and thanked. Kevin pulled Daniel aside at one point. "Your wife is amazing, man. She's holding this whole thing together." Daniel looked across the room to where Sophia was talking to his aunt, making sure she had a place to sit and something to drink. "Yeah, she is. You're lucky you found her. I didn't find her. It was arranged." Kevin gave him a look. "Doesn't matter how it started. What matters is what you do with it." After everyone left and the apartment was finally quiet, Daniel found Sophia in the kitchen. She was cleaning up, even though the catering company had already done most of it. Keeping busy. He recognized the strategy because he used it himself. "You should rest," he said. "You've been running around all day." "I'm okay. Just finishing up." "Sophia, stop." She turned to look at him and he saw how tired she was, how much effort she'd put into taking care of everyone, including him. "Thank you," he said, "for everything. The funeral, the arrangements, putting up with my family. You didn't have to do all that?" "Yes, I did. That's what family does." The word hung between them. Family. They were married, but they weren't really family. Except she'd been more family to him these past few days than anyone except his mother. "I don't know what I would have done without you," Daniel admitted. Sophia walked over and hugged him. Not the desperate embrace at the hospital, but something gentler, steadier. "You would have survived. You're stronger than you think, but I'm glad I could help." They stood there in the kitchen, holding each other, and Daniel realized something had changed. This wasn't an arrangement anymore. Somewhere between morning coffee and hospital visits and holding his mother's hand, it had become something real. The following weeks were hard. Daniel threw himself into work trying to escape the grief. But it followed him everywhere. He'd reach for his phone to call his mother before remembering she was gone. He'd come home and expect to find her message on his voicemail. The grief ambushed him at random moments. Sophia was patient with it all. She didn't push him to talk or tell him to move on or offer empty platitudes. She just existed in the space with him, making coffee, leaving dinner in the fridge on nights he worked late, sitting with him when the silence got too heavy. One night, Daniel came home at 11 to find Sophia on the couch with her laptop, grading papers. She looked up when he came in. "There's leftover Thai food if you're hungry." "I'm okay. Thanks, though," He should go to his office. He had reports to review, but instead he sat down on the other end of the couch. "Can I ask you something?" he said. "Of course. Why are you still here? I mean, my mother is gone. That was the whole point of this arrangement. You could leave now. Take the money from the agreement and start over." Sophia closed her laptop and looked at him directly. "Is that what you want? For me to leave?" "No, but I want to know why you're staying." She was quiet for a moment, choosing her words carefully. "When I agreed to this arrangement, it was for practical reasons. Money, security, help for my brother. But somewhere along the way, things changed for me. You changed for me." "Changed how?" "You're not the cold businessman I expected. You're someone who reads to his mother and makes terrible jokes and actually cares about my craft projects, even though you don't understand why 6-year-olds need glitter planets. You're someone worth knowing, worth staying for." Daniel felt something crack open in his chest. "I'm a mess right now. Everyone's a mess sometimes." "That's okay. I'm not good at this. At relationships. At letting people in. I noticed." Sophia smiled gently. "But you're trying. That counts for something. What if I disappoint you? What if I'm too broken or too focused on work or just not capable of being what you need? Then we figure it out together. That's how this works, right?" Daniel ran his hands through his hair, frustrated with himself. "I don't know how this works. I don't know what we are now. This started as a business arrangement and now it's something else and I don't know the rules." Sophia moved closer on the couch. "Maybe there don't need to be rules. Maybe we just figure it out as we go." "That's terrifying." "Yeah, but also kind of exciting, don't you think?" He looked at her, really looked at her. This woman who'd tested him with bad photos, who'd moved into his apartment and made it feel like a home, who'd held his hand while his mother died and hadn't asked for anything in return. "I'm going to mess this up," he said. "Probably. I'll mess it up too. We'll figure it out together." "You're very optimistic for someone who married a stranger. You're not a stranger anymore. You haven't been for a while," she was right. Somewhere between the wedding and now, they'd become something more than strangers with a contract. Friends maybe, or something heading in that direction. "I want to try," Daniel said quietly, "to be better at this, at us. Whatever we are. That's all I'm asking." They sat together on the couch, not quite touching but closer than they'd been. The city glowed outside the windows. The apartment was quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator. "My mother really liked you," Daniel said. "I really liked her too. She told me once that you were too good for me, that I better not mess this up." Sophia laughed softly. "Smart woman. She also said you were exactly what I needed, that you'd teach me how to live again. No pressure then." She was usually right about these things. "Then maybe you should listen to her." Daniel reached over and took Sophia's hand. Just held it. It felt natural, right? "I'm sorry I've been so distant, so caught up in work and grief. You deserve better. You're grieving. That's allowed. But Daniel, yeah? Don't shut me out completely. Let me help. Let me be here for you. I'll try. That's good enough for now." They stayed up talking that night, really talking for the first time since the funeral. About his mother, about childhood memories, about fears and hopes and all the complicated feelings that came with loss. Sophia told him about losing her parents, about the grief that never fully goes away, but eventually becomes something you can carry. Around 2 a.m, Sophia fell asleep on the couch. Daniel grabbed a blanket and covered her, watching her peaceful face for a moment. This woman who'd come into his life through the strangest circumstances. Who'd stayed when she didn't have to. Who'd seen him at his worst and hadn't run away. He went to bed that night feeling something he hadn't felt in weeks. Hope. Small and fragile, but there. Hope that maybe this arrangement could become something real, something lasting. His mother had wanted him to find happiness, to let someone in, to stop treating life like a business deal that could be optimized and controlled. Maybe, just maybe, Sophia was exactly the person to teach him how to do that. And maybe, despite all the grief and confusion and fear, he was finally ready to learn. 6 months after his mother's death, Daniel found himself doing something he never thought he'd do. He was standing in a community center in a neighborhood he'd never visited before, wearing jeans and an old shirt, helping Sophia set up for a weekend tutoring program. "Can you grab those boxes?" Sophia called from across the room. "They have the art supplies." Daniel lifted the boxes and brought them over. Inside were crayons, markers, construction paper. the kind of stuff he'd seen all over his apartment for months now. Sophia's teaching supplies had slowly taken over his space, and somehow he didn't mind. "Why do we need art supplies for a math tutoring program?" he asked. "Because kids learn better when they're having fun. We're going to teach fractions using pizza drawings." "That actually makes sense." Sophia grinned. "I know what I'm doing. Been teaching for 7 years, remember? Kids started arriving with their parents." Daniel watched Sophia transform. She was always kind and patient at home, but here she was something else. Vibrant. Alive. She knew every kid's name within 5 minutes, knew their struggles and their strengths, made each one feel special. Daniel found himself assigned to help a 10-year-old named Tyler with multiplication tables. The kid was struggling, getting frustrated, ready to give up. "I'm just stupid at math," Tyler said, throwing his pencil down. "You're not stupid," Daniel said. "Math is just another language. Once you understand the logic, it makes sense. That's what my teacher says. But I still don't get it." Daniel thought for a moment. Then he pulled out his phone and opened a simple game. "You play video games?" Tyler's eyes lit up. "Yeah." "Okay. Let's say you're fighting a boss and you need to know how much damage you're doing. If you hit him 4 times and each hit does 6 damage, how much total damage is that?" Tyler thought about it. 24? Exactly. That's 4 times 6. You just did multiplication without even thinking about it. For the next hour, Daniel turned every math problem into a game scenario. Tyler got more and more animated, solving problems that had frustrated him minutes before. By the end, the kid was smiling and actually asking for more problems. Sophia watched from across the room, and when their eyes met, she gave him a look that made his chest feel warm. After the session, while they were packing up, Sophia bumped her shoulder against his. "You were really good with Tyler. I just related it to something he cared about. Basic teaching strategy, right?" "Right, but you did it naturally. You should come back next week. I have a board meeting next Saturday." "The week after, then." Daniel started to make an excuse, but stopped. Why was he making excuses? He'd actually enjoyed himself today. "Okay, yeah, I'll come back." Sophia's smile was brighter than the afternoon sun coming through the windows. That evening, they ordered pizza and ate it on the living room floor because all the fancy furniture suddenly felt too formal. Daniel told her about his conversation with Tyler, and Sophia told him about a girl who'd finally understood long division. "You know what's funny?" Daniel said, picking pepperoni off his slice. 6 months ago, I would have said this was a waste of time. Spending a Saturday teaching kids basic math when I could be working on million-dollar deals. And now I think maybe those deals aren't as important as I thought they were." Sophia studied him. "You've changed. Since your mother passed. You're different. Different how? Softer, more present. You actually look up from your laptop during dinner now." Daniel laughed. The bar was pretty low. Still, it's progress. Sophia set down her pizza. "Can I ask you something?" "Always. What do you actually want? Not what you think you should want or what makes business sense. What do you really want from your life?" It was the kind of question Daniel usually deflected or turned into a joke. But something about sitting on the floor eating pizza with sauce on his shirt made him want to be honest. "I want to matter," he said. "Not because I made money or built a company. I want to matter to real people. The way my mother mattered to everyone who knew her. The way you matter to those kids we worked with today. You already matter. To who? My employees who tolerate me because I sign their paychecks? My business partners who only care about quarterly earnings? To me," Sophia said quietly. "You matter to me." Daniel looked at her, really looked at her. This woman who'd entered his life through a strange arrangement, who'd stayed when she didn't have to, who'd somehow become the most important person in his world without him noticing when it happened. "When did this get so complicated?" he asked. "When you stopped treating it like a business deal." "I liked business deals. They made sense. They had clear terms and expectations. Life doesn't work that way. Neither do relationships. I'm noticing." Daniel set down his pizza. "Sophia, I need to tell you something." She tensed slightly. "Okay, this arrangement, this marriage, it's not enough anymore." "Not for me." Sophia's face fell. "Oh, I understand. You want to end it. Now that your mother is gone, there's no reason to—" "No, God, no. That's not what I'm saying." Daniel moved closer, taking her hands. "I'm saying the opposite. I don't want an arrangement anymore. I want something real, with you. If you want that too, Sophia stared at him, her eyes getting shiny.
You want to stay married?
Actually married? I want more than that. I want to date my own wife, take you to dinner like a real couple, hold your hand without feeling like I'm breaking some invisible boundary. I want to stop sleeping in separate wings of this apartment like we're strangers. Daniel, I know this wasn't the plan. I know we agreed to keep things simple and professional. But somewhere between bad photos and morning coffee and you holding me while I cried, I fell for you. Completely. And I should have said something sooner, but I was scared and stupid and... Sophia kissed him. Just leaned forward and kissed him, cutting off his rambling. It was soft and sweet and tasted like pizza sauce, and it was absolutely perfect. When they pulled apart, Sophia was smiling through tears. I fell for you too. Months ago. I was just waiting for you to catch up. Why didn't you say anything? Because you needed time to grieve. To figure out what you wanted. I didn't want to push you or make you feel obligated. Daniel laughed and pulled her close. You tested me with ugly photos but couldn't tell me you had feelings for me. I'm complicated. You're perfect. They sat there on the living room floor holding each other, both crying a little and laughing a lot. Outside, the city hummed with its usual chaos. But inside the penthouse, everything finally felt right. So what now? Sophia asked. Do we have a second wedding? Renew our vows? How about we just start over? I take you on a proper first date. We do this right. We're already married. Details. I'm asking you out, Sophia. Will you go to dinner with me this Friday? Somewhere nice where I can try to impress you? You want to impress me? The girl who married you based on a contract? I want to deserve you. That's different, Sophia kissed him again. Yes, I'll go to dinner with you. But only if you promise one thing. Anything. No more talk about prenuptial agreements or business arrangements. We're a real couple now. That means we figure things out together. No contracts. Deal. Though technically that was a verbal contract you just made me agree to. She smacked his arm playfully. You're impossible. You signed up for this. I did. Best decision I ever made, actually. They spent the rest of the evening planning their first date. Daniel insisted on doing it properly. Reservations at a nice restaurant, flowers, the whole thing. Sophia teased him about being old-fashioned, but he could tell she was excited. That night, before they went to their separate rooms, a habit they agreed they'd change soon, Sophia stopped him in the hallway. Thank you, she said. For what? For being brave enough to say something. For letting me in. For being nothing like I expected. Right back at you, though I still can't believe you catfished me with those photos. Catfished? I prefer to think of it as strategic presentation. You're lucky you're cute. I'm lucky you looked past cute, that you saw something worth staying for. Daniel pulled her into a hug. I'm the lucky one. You taught me how to live again. How to care about things that matter. How to be human instead of just being successful. We taught each other. That's how the best relationships work. They said goodnight and went to their rooms, but Daniel couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about everything that had happened. How a strange arrangement had turned into something real. How the woman he'd expected to barely tolerate had become the center of his world. His mother had been right. She'd known somehow that Sophia was exactly what he needed. Someone to challenge him, to see past his walls, to refuse to accept the bare minimum and push for something more. The next morning, Daniel woke up early and made coffee. The good kind, using Sophia's old coffee maker that had earned permanent residence on his expensive granite counter. When she emerged from her room, he had a cup waiting for her. Morning, he said, and the word felt different now. Warmer. Morning, she replied, and her smile was different too, no longer polite or careful, just genuine and happy. They stood in the kitchen drinking coffee, planning their day, talking about nothing important. But it was everything, this simple domestic moment, this easy comfort with another person. Daniel had spent his whole life chasing success, building empires, accumulating wealth. But standing there in his kitchen with Sophia, wearing sweatpants and bedhead, he realized this was what success actually looked like. Not the penthouse or the cars or the company.
But this, someone to share coffee with in the morning.